I don't really believe in balance. I believe in being strategic.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I believe in being strategic based on what your central goal is. So I think to be good at anything, you're going to create some imbalance in some way, whether it's an imbalance in the amount of time you have, whether it's a muscular imbalance, whether it's an intellectual imbalance. It's very difficult to be everything. When we look at the kind of physical specimens in the Olympics or just anything, they're very sport specific, aren't they? So, what you're trying to do is just be strategic in terms of the outcome. So what is your outcome? I would start with if someone is over the age of 60 and they want to be able to do a certain thing, then the balance comes into making sure there's a kind of hierarchy of things that you focus on. And so that means you'll excel at that thing you want to do. If you want to excel at just being alive, then that probably broadens things. But then again, you can still be strategic. So say you come in, you're 65 and you've got historically bad knees, then that's where your focus is, and that's where you put all your time, and then you'll create. I don't think balance comes into it. Then I think it's. I think it's easy to kind of mistake balance for stupidity.
Are there any broad sort of brushstrokes that you could say where, I suppose general guidelines or general recommendations that you would make for the average person who comes in to train, who's not going to take part in any kind of competitive sport? They don't have any specific, physical challenges or ambitions, but it's about health and longevity and wellness. I mean, is there a certain amount of times that you would say is optimal to do some kind of strength training per week? Is it necessary to have dedicated rest days? I mean,
I suppose my answer was quite esoteric and my answer was probably quite facetious at the same time. But I would say, for the average person who errs on the side of sedentary, then really they have to do anything they can. The balance is to be active as possible. And then the question is then how much time does that individual have and how far do they want to take it? And my programs are designed around busy people. I'm sure that you guys are the same, where you're working with people with families, with injuries, with probably over the age of 30, etc. So I drilled it down to a minimum of twice a week, strength training. But then there's a kind of a deeper question, which is how are you spending that 2 hours a week? Because you can. For me, like my clients need assistance, and we've only got so much time. So then we're trying to put everything into those 2 hours. Whereas an equally kind of effective option could be you do something small every day, that's going to counteract what you do most of the time. So if you do what most of the time you're sat at a desk, or if you're retired, it could be that. There's some people just don't do anything. And there's some people who do things. So it's just to kind of counteract that and make it something habitual. I think that's where balance comes in.
What do you think, Pete? Yeah. What do you think, Pete, on this?
I kind of agree with Paul. It was funny because when he said I don't believe in balance, it was kind of like, oh, right, okay. And then it's actually when he's explained that, it's I think the same thing. And balance is different for everyone. So if someone's not very strong, but I don't know, let's say someone's been running marathons their whole life, but never done any strength work. And then they get to their 60s, right? What's the balance between doing strength work and cardio and all that? It's like, well, you don't need to do that much cardio, do you? Because you'll be really good at that. So, but you might not be as strong as you want to be. And then you might be getting like osteoporosis or something like that, like things like that, like knocking at the door. So therefore you might want to start doing a bit more strength work, but not too much because you're not used to it. So you have to start to step into it and dabble in it, possibly get a coach to help you, that sort of stuff. So I think, balance is different for everyone depending on where you're starting from. But if your goal, I think when people want balance, your goal is mainly to be able to do many different things. So to be able to be strong enough to maybe play tennis or, go running or play football or walk in football or whatever it is you do.
Have options. To basically
have options.
Say, I fancy doing something.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Be an all-rounder. You know what I mean? And that's and that tends to be, I don't know this guy, Les, But that's kind of what that says to me about him. He's probably a bit of an all-rounder, and he just wants to make sure he stays fit, strong, and healthy as long as he can. And the balance in that is to do things. And also the thing about when people talk about cardio, cardio is always a difficult subject because people think they need to do loads and loads and loads of it, don't they? But you're doing it every day. And I mean, if he's playing walking football and stuff like that, that's cardio. So I would say you don't need to go to the gym to do cardio. Use that time. Use the time, the focus time when you've got to go somewhere to do something, to do the strength work and bits of mobility and stuff like that, which you can also do at home as well. And use your free time that you have, if you have any, to do your cardio by going for a walk or going and doing something, just being a little bit more active, And if you are sedentary, then just to go out for a walk for 5 minutes or something, So that sort of thing is like, how do you fit all of this into your lifestyle? And it's like, well, that's another question that's going to come next, obviously. But like, it's how do you fit it all in? And it's like you can fit your lifestyle around it, not it around your lifestyle as well. So,
is a balance sometimes kind of construed as some kind of almost neutralizing everything, in the sense that like balance is a neutral posture. No kyphosis, no, you're on your chest too tight, but you've got to be this, you've got to be that. When the thing is, sometimes like it doesn't really matter. Like you might not get any pain, it might not stop you doing anything. Is having perfect posture balance? I don't know. If you're a climber, is that important to have perfect posture? Or a fighter, when you're in a hunched over position, does perfect posture mean anything? It would be balanced to have that, to be really nice and upright. But I don't know if it would be any use or make any difference.
But it wouldn't help your sport, would it? Or your lifestyle.
I think in some ways when people ask about and I think possibly where Les asked about it, like I say, because I kind of know him, and he does park run on a Saturday. Like I say, he plays cricket in the summer, he plays bowls in the summer, does his walking football, he trains at the gym. But I think when people maybe think about balance of training and I suppose ticking all the boxes of, if you think about the big three, which would be maybe cardiovascular, strength training, and mobility, stroke flexibility, and rest days and recuperation as well. I suppose many people think in terms of not overdoing any one thing and avoiding injury. I think that's quite a big part for many people who maybe think, if I do too much of this, is it going to be bad for me? In terms of if I do too much running, and not like the example Pete just said, if I run 6 days a week and do no strength training, is there an issue there? If I do strength training 5 days a week but can't touch my toes, is there an issue there? So it's that kind of avoiding injury, I think, is an element that people have in their minds as well.
There's yes and no to that, I think. The first one is, could you be like David and do a 2-hour long cycle marathon? Is that too much kettlebell swings? Well, probably to get to that stage, he had to answer a ton of questions about his ability to do it. And therefore, it forced him to confront other things where a moderate, less kind of crazy, nutty option would never have done that. So it's easy to sometimes say like, hey, I'm going to hold off being too intense, with this idea that somehow that is more healthy, but you never actually have a reason to confront some of the imbalances and issues that may actually flare up longer term,
The funny thing is as well, so this is just made me think really, what can you do too much of? And what do people tend to do too little of? And I'm working this out in my head as I say it right now, because we haven't had this conversation yet. So, but say mobility, can you do too much of it? Not really. You can do mobility every day for an hour a day, 2 hours. You can do it for as much as you like, and it's going to be really good. Whereas if you do strength work for 2 hours a day, every day, that's going to be overdoing it, isn't it? If you do like loads and loads of loads and loads of running, it's the likelihood is it increases I would say it increases the chance of injury. without doing any of the, other stuff. Whereas mobility kind of, and when people talk in this question, we had the question about mobility, flexibility, this and that. I mean, flexibility, I don't even know what that is anymore, because I tend to talk more about mobility, stability, and motor control, and just being able to control a movement through a movement pattern, which you can then add weight to, and then it becomes strength work. So you get mobility from strength work as well, as long as you're not overdoing it. So that to me says the balance is that you don't need to balance everything out. You probably need to do more of one. You can do as much of this as you like, but watch out how much of this you do, because it may, it may cause problems in the like down the road, especially if you're getting a little bit older as well, where mobility becomes more important. But some people, like David Keown, for a perfect example, he's got great mobility, but he works on it every day. He just put a post up yesterday or today saying he does like 45 minutes of hip work after he's done a heavy session the night before, all the time. And he's already got great mobility, but that's because he does it as well. And Phil McDougall said on his episode, I can't remember which episode that was, but he moves his joints every single day through full range of motion every day. And he sees people like Steve Cotter do that as well. And that's why he does it, because those are the people who've got great mobility.